Well, good evening, everyone. It is Thursday evening here about 7:30. Wanted to get on, do a quick video and look at kind of what the environment's going to shape up for tomorrow across eastern New Mexico and the Texas Panhandle. I am going to be heading out that way to Chase. Does look like it has the potential to be a pretty significant, at least area of severe weather there across eastern New Mexico and the Texas Panhandle. So, do want to look at that and then kind of talk about the things that I look at before preparing a storm chase. So, looking here at the visible satellite, this is what's going on right now. We can see a couple storms here across kind of southeastern Colorado. We've got another batch here in the Big Bend area of Texas, off into northern Mexico, and then just a lot of showers over kind of the Intermountain West here and even the Four Corners region. And then what we can see is, as we talked about in our last video, we've got this stream of energy and certainly some moisture that's coming out of the subtropical Pacific here across Baja and kind of northern Mexico. And that's what's giving us this fuel that we need to see these almost constant daily rounds of storms, kind of igniting off the higher terrain here in Colorado and New Mexico, and then moving off to the east southeast across the Texas Panhandle. And contributed to lots of storm days, even some tornadoes in eastern New Mexico yesterday, and certainly a lot of really good rainfall. So when we do look at kind of what the environment's setting up for tomorrow, kind of a quick sneak peek here. This is the HRRR model for right about 6 p.m. tomorrow. And this is showing several different significant supercells that are kind of isolated and by themselves from eastern New Mexico, kind of right along the state line, into kind of the Midland, Big Spring area, all the way down to around that Fort Stockton area and points in between. So, kind of a wide spaced area here of what looks to be some pretty strong, kind of isolated storms. We could see all severe weather threats, certainly possible tomorrow, large hail, severe wind gusts, and even a couple tornadoes, I think. A couple things that we do want to always look at here. This is a glimpse of our moisture. This is looking at again tomorrow afternoon. We're going to have low to mid 60s dew points across the southern Texas Panhandle, and then even almost 60 degrees, if not mid 50 degrees, all the way up here to the mountains of New Mexico. So when we're talking about these higher terrain elements like New Mexico and certainly the cap rock of the Panhandle, you don't actually need quite the same dew point temperature that's necessary to get severe storms, say in other parts of Texas, because of that higher altitude. You don't actually need quite as moist of an air mass to get the same effect because you're at those higher altitudes. So anytime that you see even low, but especially mid 50s dew points, that can really be certainly more than enough that you need for moisture to see those severe storms. So we're going to have moisture at play. That's not really going to be an issue here. Now, one of the things that I did want to point out that is going to be a complicating factor on the forecast is looking at what's going on right now. So this is kind of overnight here. We've got a couple storms currently that have fired kind of here across parts of northeastern New Mexico. And as we move forward over these next couple hours, we're going to see those storms kind of form another one of those lines. We call this an MCS or mesoscale convective system, where you kind of get this line of storms that almost forms one big storm complex. And then that's going to move off here to the south southeast in the overnight hours and then going into tomorrow morning, maybe into tomorrow early afternoon. The reason that this complicates the forecast is this is going to do two things. One, this storm is going to kind of overturn the atmosphere, so it could certainly mess with the moisture. It's also, because there's storms, there's going to be a lot more clouds that will be in place. So it is possible that we could have too much cloud cover, not enough of that sunshine to really get the atmosphere boiling. And sometimes models don't do a great job of simulating where and how impactful this storm system is going to be. So this will be something that we really won't know the answer for until probably midday tomorrow. But as we see this storm kind of push off, one of the things that is interesting here is that once we get to around kind of midday, this storm does put out an outflow boundary in that the winds along here will be more likely coming from the east to the west rather than out of the south. And that can actually be a positive feature to really see a significant storm threat and certainly a more significant tornado threat. And as we move forward in time over the next couple hours, kind of right along this boundary where that storm complex was, that's where we see some of these more intense storms start to fire up. So if we can get these storms to kind of fall apart, not have a huge socked in atmosphere with all those clouds, the outflow boundary actually could be a positive contributor to seeing winds coming more out of the east up the caprock in that higher terrain and really funneling in to those rotating thunderstorms. So that will be something that I'll have to be watching early morning hours into kind of that maybe afternoon, early afternoon, to see how this progresses. And it's possible that depending on if this is further north or further south, that could certainly have an impact on where we see storms form. And one of the interesting things, again, this is the HRRR model. So this is an example here, certainly a real volatile atmosphere, a lot of storms, kind of eastern New Mexico into the South Plains here. When we look at one of the other models here, again, kind of same time frame here, early afternoon, and then as we go into kind of the early evening, we do see this system is a little bit different and that storms tend to be a little bit further off to the west and also further southwest as well. So not really seeing hints of as many storms here in the South Plains on the Texas side of the border. It does seem to be a little bit further west into New Mexico and then also into southwest Texas. So again, we're seeing two different scenarios for the models. Both are showing severe storms kind of in this general area, but certainly depending on how that storm complex overnight plays out, we could see the positioning of these storms and maybe even the threat level certainly be impacted. And again, models oftentimes struggle with the evolution of how do these storm systems play out in those overnight and early morning hours. So that'll be something that'll be worth watching. But I am going to get up here in Dallas early tomorrow morning and start heading out west, try to get out to certainly the Panhandle, if not even eastern New Mexico by around mid-afternoon tomorrow, and then certainly be chasing tomorrow evening. So again, just kind of my thoughts looking at the model runs this evening, and maybe what tomorrow's target area looks like, probably eastern New Mexico, maybe extreme western parts of the Panhandle, and certainly will, if I have good cell coverage, hopefully I'll be able to go live and be able to kind of take you in the passenger seat for some storm chasing on a Friday of a holiday weekend like we'll have tomorrow. So hope everybody has a good end to the work week and certainly a good Memorial Day weekend coming up, and I'll see you back for the next video.